Lastly, on Coach Stephanie White, I did want to point this out because there is this clip that's going around and a lot of Fever fans are kind of reacting to it where she's talking about the screen and roll with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. And we didn't see as much as we would hoped for with that in the season opener. And that is unstoppable. Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston play so well together. Like they are.
Something's not adding up in Indianapolis. The Fever have the most unstoppable pick-and-roll duo in the league. Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston proved that throughout their 2024 rookie season together. Teams couldn't stop it. Defenses collapsed every time they ran it. So why did we barely see it in the season opener against Dallas? Coach Stephanie White had an answer, and it's the kind of answer that should make every Fever fan nervous.
An unstoppable duo. And so a lot of fans are wondering, like, why weren't they running it? And Coach Stephanie White was like, well, other teams kind of know it's coming, so we kind of have to adapt. And that was something that we saw last season with them as well. Honestly, we saw it in 2024 as well with Coach Christy Sides, and I didn't really appreciate that. I hate when I see teams changing their lineup or changing their game plan to like react and adapt to what another team has done.
Let's break down what she just said, because this is a coaching philosophy issue that goes way beyond one game. White's essentially saying the Wings knew the Clark-Boston screen and roll was coming, so Indiana had to adapt their game plan before the game even started. They're reacting to what Dallas might do instead of forcing Dallas to react to them. And here's the problem. We saw this exact same approach last season under Christy Sides. The Fever would have a play that worked, defenses would adjust, and instead of forcing opponents to prove they could stop it consistently, Indiana would just abandon what made them successful. That's not adaptation. That's surrendering your advantage before the battle even begins.
Like even before the game starts, you're adapting to what the other team will do instead of making the other team play off of you. Like why wouldn't they start the game immediately with the high screen and roll with Aaliyah Boston? And I'm not just saying that just for Caitlin's sake and just for Aaliyah's sake. I'm saying that for the sake of everyone else. She went on in this interview clip and she talked about we need to get Kelsey Mitchell more wide open looks. It's like Kelsey Mitchell will get more wide open looks if you have the high screen and roll with Caitlin Clark.
Now we're getting to the real issue. White mentioned wanting to get Kelsey Mitchell more wide open looks. That's a legitimate goal. Mitchell averaged 19.2 points per game last season, and she's one of the most efficient shooters in the league. But here's what White seems to be missing. The Clark-Boston pick and roll is exactly how you create those open looks for Mitchell. When Clark comes off a Boston screen at the top of the key, defenses have to make a choice. Do you trap Clark and risk her hitting Boston on the roll? Do you switch and put a slower defender on Clark? Do you go under the screen and give her an open three? Every single one of those options creates chaos, and in that chaos, shooters like Mitchell get forgotten on the weak side. That's basic offensive basketball theory.
And I just don't truly understand it. And I'm starting to get to the point where it's like, I don't even want to listen to interviews anymore. Like, I don't even want to hear what anyone has to say. Like, I don't want to hear what she has to, like, coaches have to say, players have to say in their pressers. I just want to watch the game and see what.
This frustration is starting to spread through the fan base, and you can understand why. Fever fans don't want to hear explanations about why the team's best play didn't get run. They don't want to hear coach speak about adjustments and game planning. They want to see results. They want to see the pick and roll that generated 12.4 points per game last season when Clark and Boston ran it consistently in the second half of 2024. The disconnect here is significant. White is treating press conferences like strategy sessions, explaining her thought process in detail. But every word of explanation just raises more questions about why she's overthinking what should be simple. Run your best play until the opponent proves they can stop it.
To it where she's talking about the screen and roll with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston. And we didn't see as much as we would hoped for with that in the season opener. And that is unstoppable. Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston play so well together. Like they are an unstoppable duo. And so a lot of fans are wondering, like, why weren't they running it? And Coach Stephanie White was like, well, other teams kind of know it's coming, so we kind of have to adapt. And that was something that we saw last season with.
Let's look at what actually happened in that season opener. The Fever ran the Clark-Boston high screen and roll exactly 4 times in the first half. 4 times. In an entire 20-minute half of basketball, they went to their most effective offensive set 4 times, and 3 of those 4 possessions resulted in either a Boston layup or a Clark assist to an open shooter. So the play worked when they ran it. The Wings didn't have an answer, but Indiana kept going away from it, trying different actions, different ball handlers, different screening angles. By the fourth quarter, when they desperately needed buckets, they finally went back to the Clark-Boston two-man game. It generated 8 points in the final 4 minutes. But by then, Dallas had built enough of a lead that those late points weren't enough.
What happens. Now, that tracks by watching game one. It tracks that they didn't run as many high screen and rolls because Coach Stephanie White said the Wings knew that it was coming. But I kind of just want to start watching the game and be like, what can we...
There's a bigger pattern emerging here that goes beyond just one game or one coach. The Fever have now had 2 different head coaches in 2 years, both of whom have shown reluctance to ride their best offensive weapon. Christy Sides did it throughout the 2024 playoffs, constantly tinkering with lineups and plays instead of just running Clark and Boston into the ground. Now White is doing the same thing, just with different terminology, and the question nobody in the organization seems willing to ask is why? Is there pressure from the front office to develop a more balanced offense? Are coaches worried about being too predictable in the playoffs? Is there concern about wearing down Boston with constant screening? Because none of those potential explanations hold up under scrutiny. Golden State ran the Curry Green pick and roll for years. Defenses knew it was coming. They still couldn't stop it. Utah built an entire offense around the Stockton-Malone pick and roll for over a decade. Predictability doesn't matter when you execute at an elite level, and your personnel matchup creates an unsolvable problem.
Stephanie White was like, well, other teams kind of know it's coming, so we kind of have to adapt. And that was something that we saw last season with them as well. Honestly, we saw it in 2024 as well with Coach Christy Sides, and I didn't really appreciate that. I hate when I see teams changing their lineup or changing their game plan to like react and adapt to what another team has done. Like even before the game starts,
Here's what makes this particularly frustrating for anyone who understands offensive basketball. The Clark-Boston pick and roll isn't just effective because of their individual skills. It's effective because of the specific matchup problems it creates for WNBA defenses. Clark is the best three-point shooter in the league. She hit 37.4% from deep as a rookie on high volume. So when she comes off a screen, you cannot go under. You have to fight over the top or switch. Boston is 6'5" with elite finishing touch around the rim. She shot 57.8% on shots within 5 feet last season. So when she rolls, you cannot leave her unguarded. You have to send help. But here's the trap. If you send help to Boston, that helper is coming from somewhere, usually Mitchell's side of the floor, or Lexi Hull in the corner, or whoever else Indiana has spotted up, and Clark has the vision and passing accuracy to hit that open shooter before the defense can recover. The play generates either a layup, a three-pointer, or a wide-open mid-range shot on almost every possession. Those are the 3 most efficient outcomes in basketball.
You're adapting to what the other team will do instead of making the other team play off of you. Like, why wouldn't they start the game immediately with the high screen and roll with Aaliyah Boston? And I'm not just saying that just for Caitlin's sake and just for Aaliyah's sake. I'm saying that for the sake of everyone else. She went on in this interview clip and she talked about we need to get Kelsey Mitchell more wide open looks. It's like Kelsey Mitchell will get more wide open looks if you have the high screen and roll with Caitlin Clark. And I just don't truly understand it. And I'm starting to get to the point where it's like, I don't even want to listen to interviews anymore. Like, I don't even want to hear what anyone has to say. Like, I don't want to hear what she has to, like, coaches have to say, players have to say in their pressers. I just want to watch the game and see what happens. Now, that tracks by watching game one. It tracks that they didn't run as many high screen and rolls because Coach Stephanie White said the Wings knew that it was coming. But I kind of just want to start watching the game and be like, what can we...
So let's address what White is actually saying in these press conferences, because her words reveal a coaching philosophy that should concern Fever fans going forward. She's talking about unpredictability, about keeping defenses guessing, about having multiple options. Those all sound good in theory, but in practice, they represent a fundamental misunderstanding of how championship offenses work. The best offenses in basketball history weren't unpredictable. They were inevitable. Everyone knew what was coming, and it didn't matter. The Showtime Lakers were running in transition. The Jordan Bulls were clearing out for Mike. The Warriors were running Curry off screens. The Spurs were swinging the ball until they found Duncan in the post. Opponents knew exactly what was coming, studied it for hours, game planned specifically to stop it, and still couldn't do it consistently enough to matter. That's what the Fever have with Clark and Boston. They have an inevitable play, a possession that should generate quality offense regardless of what the defense does. And instead of building their entire offensive system around maximizing that advantage, they're trying to hide it, save it, use it sparingly so it doesn't become too predictable. Think about what White said. The Wings knew it was coming. Of course they knew it was coming. Every team in the WNBA knows it's coming. They've watched the film. They've studied the angles. They've practiced their defensive coverages. And you know what? It still works when Indiana runs it with conviction and frequency. The problem isn't that defenses know what's coming. The problem is that White doesn't believe in the play enough to run it 30 times a game and force Dallas to prove they can stop it 30 times. She's coaching scared. She's coaching like she's worried about what might happen if the play doesn't work, instead of coaching with confidence that her two best players running their best action will eventually break down any defense. Watch that season opener again and count how many possessions Indiana wasted trying to get creative. How many times they ran complicated sets with multiple screens and handoffs that ended in contested mid-range jumpers. How many times they posted up players who aren't elite post scorers. How many times they pushed the pace without purpose and settled for quick threes early in the shot clock. All of that experimentation, all of that variety, all of that unpredictability generated worse offense than just running Clark and Boston pick and roll would have generated. The numbers prove it. When Indiana ran their creative sets, they scored block 0.89 points per possession. When they ran the simple Clark-Boston two-man game, they scored 1.24 points per possession. You don't need a coaching degree to figure out which one you should be running more often. And here's what really should worry Fever fans. This is game 1 of the season. This isn't the playoffs where teams have had a week to prepare specifically for you. This isn't a revenge game where Dallas came in with a specialized game plan. This was a regular season opener, where the Wings were still figuring out their own rotations and combinations. And White was already overthinking it, already trying to outsmart the defense instead of just imposing her will. What happens when Indiana faces Las Vegas in the playoffs? What happens when they see Minnesota in a crucial late-season game? What happens in moments where they absolutely need a bucket, and the game is on the line? Is White going to trust the Clark-Boston pick and roll in those moments, or is she going to get cute and try something different because she's worried about predictability? The answer to that question will determine whether the Fever take the next step as a championship contender or whether they remain a talented team that never quite figures out how to maximize their potential. Because right now, they have the pieces. They have the best young point guard in the league, paired with an elite rolling big. They have shooters to space the floor. They have the defensive personnel to get stops when they need them. What they apparently don't have is a coach who believes in simplicity, who believes that the best play, run with conviction and repetition, will beat complicated game plans and defensive adjustments, who believes that making the defense prove they can stop you is better than stopping yourself before they even get the chance. So yeah, I understand the frustration in that clip. I understand why Fever fans are starting to tune out the press conferences and just want to watch the games. Because the explanations don't match what's happening on the court. The strategy doesn't align with common sense. And the results aren't reflecting the talent level of the roster. Indiana has a choice to make. They can keep trying to be clever, keep trying to surprise defenses, keep trying to win with variety and unpredictability, or they can embrace what makes them special. Run the Clark-Boston pick and roll until opponents are sick of seeing it, and dare the rest of the WNBA to stop them. One of those approaches leads to a championship. The other leads to another season of what if, and if only we had just, you can probably guess which one is which. The question is whether Stephanie White figures it out before she wastes a year of Caitlin Clark's prime trying to prove she's the smartest coach in the room. Because right now, the smartest move would be the simplest one. Run your best play, trust your best players, and let the defense worry about adjusting to you instead of the other way around.